A new report finds the names of hundreds of public servants on the leaked membership rolls of a far-right extremist group accused of playing a key role in the attack on the U.S. Capitol. The Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism examined more than 38,000 names on leaked Oath Keepers membership lists. It identified more than 370 people who currently work in law enforcement and more than 100 active duty members of the military. There were also the names of more than 80 people who were running for or served in public office. 36 people from these groups are from Illinois. And joining us now is Alex Friedfeld. He's an investigative researcher with the Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism. Alex, thanks for being with us here. This is really incredible. The Oath Keepers have been around for a number of years. Start off by telling us about their ideology and how it's evolved to January 6th.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So the Oath Keepers are a far-right anti-government group that is part of the militia movement. And much like the rest of the movement, they believe that the government has been co-opted by some sort of shadowy conspiracy and that it is now actively trying to strip away the freedoms and liberties of the American people with the ultimate aim of enslaving them. What separates these groups from the rest of the militia movement, though, is the way that they actively target current and former military, law enforcement, and emergency services personnel in the hopes that these people will be able to lend their unique skill sets to their agenda and that they will be able to use their positions of power to, again, further the extremist agenda.
So 81 people holding office here, Alex. Tell me about either holding office or running for office. What kinds of leadership positions are we talking about exactly?
We've seen a wide range of people, holding office from mayors and town councils, sheriffs and things of that nature, up to, people at state houses, right, in, state legislatures. And this is deeply concerning because these are individuals that people look up to, right? They look to them for guidance to, ensure that they are acting in the, best interest of their entire community. And the fact that they are associated with the Oath Keepers at any point in time raises serious doubts about their ability to fulfill their promises.
Focusing on just Illinois, elected officials and first responders, do you have a sense of where their members are focused? What part of the state, or are they sort of spread out?
It's really all over. I mean, that's the thing with these groups is they are not limited to any one specific area. This is an ideology that unfortunately appeals to Americans all over the country, wherever they may be. And that is a challenge, but an important thing that we need to confront if we are going to win this fight against extremism.
Can you talk about just the general problems or issues or threats, that this poses here for the oath, having Oath Keepers in these positions of respect and power?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are individuals who have access to power. And anytime you have an extremist who has power, that's an incredibly dangerous thing because it raises the possibility that they will use the power entrusted to them by the public in order to advance an extremist agenda and at the expense of people within their communities. There are also issues regarding the skill sets they earn, right? Law enforcement and military personnel receive specific training that they need to use to complete their daily jobs. But if extremists have these skill sets at the same time, right, it raises the possibility that they can use these skill sets for an entirely different reason than the one that they were initially given them for.
This is a paramilitary group with paid dues. How have these people answered for themselves? Have they distanced themselves from this report?
We've seen a wide variety of reactions. We have seen people claim that they are no longer part of this movement, that they paid years ago and don't participate. Some people have said that they don't disagree with the ideology, they just dislike what the Oath Keepers are doing right now, right? Not totally disavowing it. But the fact remains that this is a group that has been extremist since its founding in 2009, and that hasn't changed over the years. In fact, if anything, they have become far more extreme, as we saw, on January 6th, where the government is alleging that they were actively involved in the efforts to oppose the peaceful transfer of power.
Alex, what are we supposed to do about this? What do state leaders, what do political party leaders say about it?
it's an incredibly important issue right now. And I think, one of the reasons why we published this piece is that in order to combat this issue of extremism, we need to understand the scope of the problem. And so our hope is that by shining a light on these numbers and revealing, the individuals who are participating in all different types of public institutions, that communities and elected officials will, take whatever steps are necessary, now that they are equipped with this better data, in order to help combat extremism across the country.
Alex Friedfeld, a researcher with the Anti-Defamation League. Thanks for putting a light on this tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.